We're kicking off a new series today called GrapeSEED Greatest Hits. In each episode, we will talk in great detail about 3 of the most popular materials in the curriculum. Joining me on this first episode is Miklos. So it's a bit of a hybrid this and that with the new GrapeSEED Greatest Hits. Very meta, I know. So welcome to the podcast, Miklos.
It is great to be back.
All right, for a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of GrapeSEED Greatest Hits. So let's start with one of my personal favorites, Party in the Barn from Unit 5.
Yes, Party in the Barn. There's a lot of barn talk in GrapeSEED, right? And
Unit 4, Unit 5.
Right. Even later, with all the music in the barn and stuff like that later on. But
14, 15, yeah.
Yeah, lots of barns and farms and, mice eating corn and stuff. Like, gives me like a nice warm kind of burlappy kind of feeling.
Do you have any personal anecdotes from teaching this material back in the day?
Party in the Barn, yeah. I think a lot of teachers will relate to this. I can't identify like one particular instance. It's just it's a bunch of memories of teaching this all kind of combined into one. When you get to the end of the story, when you read the part, Melon and Carrot cut the pie, and all the fruits and vegetables have some to eat, but nobody eats the seeds. Mm-hmm. Do you know why? When I first started teaching it, because I didn't know any better, I thought I needed to teach kids, what does "do you know why" mean? But you don't. It's not a question that you're asking students to answer. It's far too difficult for them to conceptualize. But kids, they, even without teaching them what why means and of course we don't translate the question "do you know why," but they sort of start to get it. When you model answers and stuff. But it can get really weird when kids start to get it, and then. And also because on Unit 5, they can kind of read some stuff, right? And they can kind of read what's on the picture. Some kids will answer you at a certain point. And so I would go, "Do you know why?" And then one little boy or girl would start to say something like, "Baby." And I'm just like, "Oh, yeah, because those are the babies." I mean, in a cute way, the seeds are the babies. And
the baby fruits and vegetables, yeah.
But when kids start to get that, and then of course, then they start to think of other things like they'll say things like, "Me eat seed," and I'll say, "Oh yeah, have you ever eaten a seed? Like I was eating watermelon and I ate a seed by accident." Stuff like that, stuff that kids can relate to. But you start to have these really cute conversations about the things that are happening in the story, and it's you don't have to quote unquote teach them the language, the meaning of each individual word, and why that filling in the translation for that in the native language and everything. They just start to get it through your gestures and your modeling and even in your intonation. Do you know why? Start to get what that means, and I loved seeing that happen because also, back in Unit 4 too, with the farmer who's sad, the dancing pig.
Dancing pig, that's right.
There's a rhetorical question at the end of that story too. Have he never saw a dancing pig? Have you? And it's kind of the same thing. It's basically a rhetorical question that kids are you just put it out there for them to think about, and they interpret it with whatever meaning that they are able to grasp at that particular moment in their learning. But over time and through the meaningful exposure, they start to kind of get it. And answering why and because questions, it doesn't become a learning objective or a language acquisition objective until a later unit. But by that time, because they've had this sort of pre-exposure to "do you know why" and this and other components, by the time you do get to something later on, like in Unit 9 with because and stuff like that, they already kind of get it. They're like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." So watching that happen is so exciting, and I love it.
This particular material, especially that last page you were talking about, I remember when I first started teaching GrapeSEED, and I was team teaching with this other teacher. So he had already had these kids for the first 5 units, and I was kind of just coming in and team teaching, learning the ropes, and then he was going to take back over his class. But we did this material, and we got to this last question, and I asked the students, and the students answered not in the way that I was expecting. They answered, if you eat too many seeds, your stomach will hurt. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh well, that's technically true of a statement. Not really what we're going for, but at the same time, there's no technical right answer, right? So
they're
it's like,
not wrong. That's a lot of fiber to be taking in at one time. Like if you those, like especially those pumpkin seeds, man. Like at Halloween, if you've ever eaten a whole bunch of pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds as a snack, like if you eat too many of those, you're in for some stomach trouble.
Yeah, well, I think it's only the Americans eating pumpkin seeds, but I'm not sure. Another thing I like about this material is that it gives our students a lot of exposure to the third person singular form, so adding that S onto verbs. But obviously, we're not teaching grammar, so students aren't going to be sitting down with the teacher and the teacher saying, okay, boys and girls, when you start the sentence with I or you can just say the verb, but then when it's he or she or it, then you have to add an S to the verb. We don't do that, obviously.
Right. Like pumpkin plays an old piano and
yeah, exactly.
But then we have a plural subject, then you don't add the S, like kiwi, peach, and broccoli, and they sing, as opposed to, kiwi sings, but kiwi and peach sing. It's like, like you.
But it's through that repeated exposure that students start to understand the difference and how it's used. So we're kind of training their ears to hear what's right, just like we do in our native language. So when they're speaking in the future, they're like, oh, wait, this doesn't sound right.
Goodbye, my friends, goodbye. I'm sad to say goodbye. It was a good day, but now I will say goodbye, my friends, goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.